All right. Good morning, everybody. This is Forrest McGee with Dealmaker Richmond, and today is our Facebook Live event, and we are going to deep dive into, basically the subjects that we cover in our in-person event at the beginning of the month. I like to find a topic of discussion that we found or uncovered in the last deal maker event, and then we on this live session in Facebook I like to kind of drill down a little bit more and just provide some more clarity, some more structure, and hopefully that this will help you be a better person, a better spouse, a better leader, a better business owner, and hopefully you get something from this. So um who we are, we're Dealmaker Richmond. We meet once a month in person over here in Hanover at the Hanover Air Park. And we are a group of like minded people who are business owners, entrepreneurs, real estate investors, realtors, lenders. We're just a collective group of people that get together and, we do deals in the group together. We are Dealmaker, of course. And we actually spend time building each other up, helping each other grow. Everybody's got one hand forward and one hand backwards. We're all not where we want to be in life. And as far as goals, I know I certainly am not. And so, I lean on people in the group to, glean wisdom off of. And I am an open book for people who want to get some wisdom from me. So that is just how we work. So that is what we do. We meet the first Thursday of every month, and we look forward to seeing you at the next one, which will be June the 5th. And we will discuss that a little bit more at the end. Okay. So, look, today I want to discuss something that, has been hit on a couple times um, in the last events that we've had is basically, you need to treat this like a business and not a hobby. And that is the number one most crucial step that you can take in your journey from being a hobbyist to a business owner. Okay, so there's a hobbyist, you find time for it, right? Or you fill in, when you have your other things that are taking your time. You're like, oh, well, it's Friday. I didn't look at any houses this week. I didn't make any offers this week. I've got soccer practice tomorrow for the kids and church on Sunday. So, I'll start again next week. That's a hobby mentality, right? A business mindset is you actually treating this like a business. You sitting down and saying that this is my business. My business is built. My business is to buy 10 houses a year. My business is to flip 10 houses a year. So, in order to do that, you have to reverse engineer your goal and build a business plan. Okay, I'm not necessarily saying a business plan is, exactly what you need to do, but I will tell you that, statistically speaking, 80% of successful investors with, 10 or more properties, they started with a business plan. So it just makes sense. But what is this business plan? This business plan is I want this, but it's going to take this, and get this to get here, to get to where I want to be. So you're going to have to dedicate time every week, to everything in your business, because if you're starting out, you have all the hats. Um, unless you want to start out with a financial investment, and then you can start with, putting some people in place more or less in the beginning, whether you're buying systems or whether you're buying out of the box processes, or whether you're buying, a lead generation company that's going to work for you on your behalf, whatever that happens to be. Okay, sales process training, whatever it is. So you dedicate your business time. Okay, you dedicate some money that just is going to be a financial investment of time and money, and you just get started. So, you know, if you continue this hobby approach, you're only going to have, let's just say that you missed out one good deal because, this week was a little busy for you with your W-2, right? And let's just say that, the average $30,000 is what somebody can expect to make in profit. So, you keep doing that year over year, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars over a few years. And, Um, in a business mentality, hundreds of thousands of dollars over, 5 years, 10 years, that's game changing, right? That's all of your kids' education paid for, right? That's that's a lot of things. That solves a lot of problems. That money solves a lot of problems. So how do you get there? Right? You got to have clear goals and metrics and track your progress, right? So everybody who has a business plan, let's boil it down. Let's say I want to buy one house. Okay, well that means I need to look at 20 houses. I need to make offers on 10 houses, and I'm just making these numbers up. But I had to make offers on 10 houses and then I'll get one contract, right? Well, okay, make a metric, right? Make we call them KPIs, make KPIs to, understand that, in order to look at 10 properties a month or make offers on 10 properties a month, you're going to have to you're going to have to make offers on, 2 to 3 a week. And, that's your metric. How, Friday morning comes along, or a Thursday morning comes along, and you sit down and you look at your KPIs and you see, I need to make 3 offers this week. I've only made 1. Well, guess what you're doing today and tomorrow, right? You're drilling down, you're looking at properties, you're making offers, and you are making sure that your KPIs are met. Okay. Other KPIs, we have, it, everything starts with marketing, doesn't it? Right. You got to find the deal. So however your marketing is, what's your return on that? We run marketing for 6 months at a time. And through that time, we track our KPIs, and we want to see what our return on investment is, or, what our ROAS is. And that ROAS means return on ad spend. So we want to know what that is. And if we're not getting a, 4x return or better on that strategy, is it worth our time? And the answer is usually no. I think a 4x, some people say 3x, but if you're not making 3 times or more what the marketing dollars you're spending, and so basically if you spend $1 on a marketing channel, you want to get 3, 4 or more dollars back through the door in revenue. Okay. And that runs your business. So not profit, revenue. So in saying that, your KPIs, you can really get down and dirty and overanalyze everything. But basically your KPIs want to be, as simple as possible so that you'll be able to track them. And as you continue to build your business, you'll be able to add KPIs. So like our team members have their own KPIs. So like we have a lead manager. That lead manager has to call a certain number of people every day. That's one of his KPIs that they have to report daily to us. And, if we see that he's supposed to be calling 30 people a day and he only calls 20 people for 5 days in a row or 3 days in a row, we have to stop him and go, what's changed, right? Did something change? Is the lead flow down? Is he being distracted by other things? What exactly is happening here? So, let's talk about some common hobby mistakes. Everybody wants to know examples. So, hobby investors, they make 82% of hobby investors make less than 5 offers per year. Okay. We probably make 100, 150 a year, like written offers. So, we, to be successful in this business at a fair level that supports a family and supports a business and supports employees, you need to be getting, 15 to 20 new leads a week. And that costs money. Okay. And that's a process and that's a system. So, another thing that hobby investors make is when they get that one flip, they decide that they're going to make emotional purchases. So, because this is the only thing they're doing. So they want to make it as pretty as possible. So they, your emotional purchases will blow your budget. Okay. And typically speaking, that's emotional decisions and emotional purchases off of decor and, light fixtures that, aren't necessary. You're going to typically spend 12% overall more on your property than if you had a business mindset and made business decisions on the finishes of the property. Hobby investors, can spend up to 37% more on cosmetic reno, right? I mean, that's, That's not using builder grade carpet. That's, upgrading your padding. This all the things that doesn't matter, right? Excuse me. All the things that don't matter, right? The $50 light fixture instead of the $20 light fixture. Those things, the only thing that matters is you spend more money than you need to. You're not tracking your expenses, right? You're not tracking your KPIs. You're not tracking your profits. Um, it's said that 70% of hobby investors can't even calculate their true ROI, including their time investment, right? So, are you making money, or is this just something that you're doing because you want to hang out with people and say you flipped a house, right? I mean, if that's you, then own it. Um, so you know, another important thing about business, right, is and we're going to talk about smaller business, okay? I'm not going to talk about General Mills or General Electric that does everything, right? But I'm going to talk about smaller business, right? What do you see are like successful business owners, and what do you see are successful businesses, right? You see an electrical company. They do electrical work, right? And in so much, you might have an electrical company that does nothing but industrial electrical. You might have a electrical company that does nothing but residential. You might have an electrical company that does nothing but service work, right? And then you see like refrigeration companies that just work on refrigeration systems, like for restaurants and so forth. And you see specialized trades. You see specialized businesses. That's what you should set out to do for the first two or more years. Pick one thing, right? If it's flipping, flip houses. If it's wholesaling, wholesale houses. If it's landlording, landlord. Okay, get good at it. There's a couple people in our group that specialize in subsidized housing. They're good at it. They took the time to focus and do that and get good at it, learn the ins and outs, learn their customers, and figure out how to create systems and processes to manage that appropriately. If you don't have an LLC, make an LLC. Okay, you've got to separate this from you, because there's liability reasons, there's taxation reasons. If you start an S corp and you're an active business, you know you could be saving like over $15,000 a year in self-employment taxes. I mean, this is real stuff. Okay, so and then you know my accountant was telling me, she said that people they leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table of tax, true, legitimate tax deductions, just for things like not tracking your mileage, right? I mean, just simple stuff that you should be doing if you're treating this like a business, right? And so, okay, you're here, you decided to turn this into a business. Now what, right? Well, what do I do? Well, you have your business plan. You said, I want to do this, and it's going to take this, 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 and this. Well, you can't do everything. You can do everything for a little while, but you can't do everything all the time. All right. Trust me, I know. I am the biggest abuser of this rule here of saying that, well, if it is to be, it's up to me. I learned that a long time ago from somebody, and I think it's like one of the biggest things that you should never get in your head. That's stuck in my head. If it is to be, delegate it out and get somebody to do it that's better than you at that task. Well, let's talk about delegation. It's a great example. So what are you going to delegate? Well, let's just talk about it like this. All right. If you were to look at every role in your company, okay, from lead manager to, accountant to, business level decisions, CEO level, and on down, you'll see that. And if you put a typical dollar down, you decide your worth. Let's just say that you're worth $200 an hour. You put CEO, $200 an hour. Okay. Lead manager, $10 an hour. Do you think that CEOs of larger corporations that are making $200 an hour, do you think they're doing $10 an hour stuff? No, they're not. They hire somebody for $10 an hour, $20 an hour. So that is what you start delegating. And you can start delegating the lowest level stuff first, right? In this modern world that we live in now, virtual assistants are plentiful and they're good. And as long as you train them, manage them, and work with them and treat them fairly and pay your bills, you'll be surprised how many people don't. Um, they will work for you and they will do the things that are your time sucks and that are your low level things. And you can also get some mid level things done with virtual assistants. So I encourage you to monetize every role in your company, and starting at the lowest one, start getting those off your plate, delegating those to somebody else. Like, for example, um, I absolutely, so this is another way to look at it, just the things that you absolutely hate that you're not going to do, right? Get those off your plate first. So for me, bookkeeping was a big deal. So that was the first thing I got off my plate. Second thing was lead management. I am horrible at follow up. Horrible. So what did I do? I hired a lead manager that follows up. That's their job. And then we didn't create, we purchased a system called a CRM, a customer relationship management tool, that has follow up built into it, that all we need to do is set the right steps. Excuse me. All we need to do is put them in the right follow up sequence. And then we allow the system to do it for us. And then we just do some human touches on a scheduled basis, just to make sure that, they didn't reply stop, or the house isn't sold, or, et cetera, et cetera. Because people don't always like text messages. Some people like a live phone call. So that was how I got the two main things that I hated the most in my business off my plate. I just delegated it out, and, go figure. Now we have current books every month, and our CPA can meet with us and she can go, Forrest, you're doing this. You're good job. Forrest, you need to do this. You can do better. And it works through all of our stuff. It works through my wife's business. It works through, all of our, our retirement accounts, everything. It just all works, and it's all organized because I made the decision to treat that like a business and delegate it out. Okay. So, it all starts with a lead. If you don't have marketing, if you're not generating new leads some way, you don't have a real estate business, unless you're a truly passive real estate owner that is a landlord that's just buying something off the MLS because you have, good credit. You're buying one every 2 or 3 years. You're, socking it away for when you die. Your kids are going to sell it for 50 cents on the dollar to the next me in Richmond. Okay. And that is, if that's you, then that's great, right? Then this, you can continue to do that. If that, I know people in this area that's what they do. They buy MLS deals and they turn them into rentals. They're not looking for cash flow. They're looking for long-term, lifetime equity growth and, legacy building. So, okay, you get a lead. Now what, right? Forrest, I got a lead. What am I going to do? What am I going to do with this lead? Well, you got to figure out if it's a good lead or a bad lead, right? So how do you do that, right? How do you qualify a lead, right? That there is a process to that, right? And if you don't know how to do it, blind squirrels find nuts, but, not as many as if they were able to, analyze the deal properly. So, we've created, I haven't, put this out to the public yet, but we created, a 5-minute deal analysis system for landlords, for flippers, for wholesalers. Okay. So we've created a 5-minute analysis system that, we have available for you guys, that is going to take your time and give it back to you by using our system of just putting a few parameters in. This is not complicated. I hate these complicated tools that do this, do that, do this, do that. It's just a few simple parameters. And then it spits out, an analysis for you that is basically like, hey, this is a good deal, or this is a bad deal, or this is close. Let me do a little bit more homework. Let me see if I can be a better negotiator, right? And so then you get a deal under contract. Now what, right? Now you're like, oh, Forrest, I got a contract. What do I do now? Well, you got to fund it, right? So, bank loans, aren't necessarily going to work for, all of our deals. You're going to have to, find private lenders in this area that are willing to work with you and create opportunity for you because, excuse me, let me say that again. Help you realize the opportunity that you created, right? And so they're if you have a friend, right, a private lender that's a friend and they fund on the deal, you can get that money at 10% or less, right? depending on your relationship and depending on, the risk profile that, your lender is willing to do. Um, you know, Hard money lenders, professional private lenders in our area, are doing 10, 12, 15% or more. Right. But you know what? If the deal works, the deal works. I remember one time, I'll give a shout out to Richmond Mortgage. I remember one time I had a large deal in Midlothian, and the private lenders weren't willing to lend on that big of a deal. And so, I went to Mike Crumbine at Richmond Mortgage and I said, "Hey, Mike, will you help me?" He goes, "Yeah, I'll help you." And he helped me structure the deal in a way that worked for him and worked for me. And yeah, it was hard money, but we ended up making one of the largest returns on our money, on our flip project that I had ever made. It was the biggest one at that time. And so, if the deal works, the deal works. And the opposite is also true. If the deal don't work, the deal don't work. And no fancy light fixtures and, no accent wall and, none of this crap is going to make a deal work when the numbers don't work. Okay. And so, don't 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 go, well, maybe I'll flip it, maybe I'll hold it. If you go into it to flip it, flip it. If you go into it to hold it, right? Some things change, but as long as the numbers work and you can still get out of it, let's just say that you got in there and then the neighborhood was a lot worse than you thought and you just wanted to sell it. Or maybe you got there and the rental comps just weren't you know what you thought they would be. If you bought it right, then you can get out of it and not have to worry about it and suffer that lesson every single month for years and years and years, waiting for the market to pick up so that you can get your money out of the deal. Well, you ask me how I know about that. I've done that. Look, you have your business plan, you have your goals broken down, or your milestones, or your roles broken down. Well, now you got to have quarterly reviews. Successful business owners, successful businesses, they have quarterly reviews. We have goal planning every quarter. What do I want to do next quarter? And you're also doing a review. You're looking at the scorecard from last quarter, right? How did I do? I wanted to buy 10 houses. Did I do that? Yes or no? Okay. Answer is yes. Good job. Now, how many are we going to do next month or next quarter? Right? Do we want to keep it at 10 because that was really hard, or we had a string of good luck, right? Or we had somebody that had multiple properties? Whatever that looks like, figure it out, score yourself correctly and honesty, excuse me, and honestly, and be true to yourself, right? I mean, what is this? Jim Rohn says, lie to me, lie to your friends, lie to your wife, but don't lie to yourself, right? Be honest with yourself, right? So, and, I'm not saying you need a accountability partner. There's people out there that say you should have one. There's people out there that say you shouldn't have one, but you should be aligned with a mastermind group. You should be aligned with a group of people that are going in the direction that you're going in. Some are above you, in front of you, some of you behind you. I'm not saying that so you compare. I'm saying that so that you can have somebody to help you grow and to solve some of your problems because they've already had them. And you have somebody behind you that you can, give your lessons that you've learned to help them grow. Because, that in this world, the law of, sowing and reaping is very true. You need to give in order to receive in this world. It's just an amazing law that never ceases to be proven untrue. Okay. So, Dealmaker Richmond Mastermind Group, we have national mastermind groups. We have, I'm a member of Investor Fuel. I love them to death. They're my fuel family. I've been with them over 6 years. I would not be where I'm at if it wasn't for the mastermind group, Investor Fuel and Dealmaker. This is how, I've told this story in our in-person events, several times, but, Dealmakers was the first place that I learned about real estate, doing it correctly. I did it wrong the first time. And then the second time we did it correctly, but it was because of some of the lessons that we learned in Dealmaker. So, I'm not saying that this is the only way, but this is definitely the best way for you to do it, is to learn from other people. Okay. And then, you got to reinvest in your business, right? You can't take all your profits and go on a vacation. I made that mistake, right? You got to reinvest. You got to put money back into your marketing. You have to continue this business mindset of reinvesting in your business. Okay. So, look, in closing here, what I want to talk about is okay, you need to do 1 to 3 things. Okay. 1 to 3 steps in the next 2 weeks. And then I will see you guys June the 5th at our next event. And you can tell me what steps or what things that you created to go from your hobby mindset into a business mindset. Okay. So it can be a system, right? If you don't have a CRM, get a CRM. If you don't have, any kind of follow-up system, create one, right? Buy one, right? Okay. Buy back your time, right? And so, um, deal analysis tool, hit me up, see if the deal analysis tool is going to work for you. If it does, it would be an awesome addition to your toolbox. Okay. Reach out to somebody that, is doing what you want to do, right? Ask them if you can, take them to lunch, or, ask them if you can, have a little bit of their time, hop on a Zoom call, and, see what some of their milestones were, that they, did this and they bought back their time. They did this and their business grew, 4x, 6x. Okay. And then, get out to these mastermind groups, come to the events, network with people, create some systems, create some processes, delegate out those time suck things, those low dollar per hour tasks. And, you know, just doing 1, 2, or 3 things will dramatically increase your mindset and start to shift your mindset into more of a business mindset. And then when you take that and delegate that out, have your KPI ready for, what am I going to hold them accountable for? The worst thing you can do is have an employee that doesn't have accountability. The worst thing you do is have an employee that doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. It's wasting your time. It's wasting their time, and it's going to end in failure. And the employee's not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. And more often than not, if you are acting like that and you're an employee like that, you're not going to know what went wrong, and you're going to do it again. So, make sure that your employees have accountability measures in place, have KPIs. They know what they're supposed to do every day. Okay. And then, um, you know, if you were just to implement 3 business practices, you could increase your success rate by, 100, 200, 300%. I mean, if you were able to just focus on the core thing in your business, or whether that's just being the CEO, whether that is, being the best salesperson, whatever that is, if you're able to just sit and take care of that, that is gold. Okay. So look, I encourage everybody, let's come to the event in 2 weeks. Bring me, 1 or 3 things that you've implemented into your business to, continue to move into that business mindset. And, when we have our June the 5th meeting at the Hanover Air Park, is going to be a good event. We're going to have a couple seasoned real estate investors sitting on a panel, and we are going to talk about what systems, what processes, and what key team members they have that help their business to thrive. Okay. So let's get out of this hobby mindset. Let's see how business owners get are running circles around you, and you're just sitting there wondering why. And we're here to help. We're here to encourage. And, I learn from the group every time we have an event. I learn from the group. I am not the smartest guy out there. I'll tell you that every time, but I love this group and I enjoy being a part of it. And I want you to be a part of it too. So it's June the 5th, and we open the doors at 5:30, and I hope to see you guys there. And I hope you guys build a business. I hope you got something from this video. I hope that this encouraged you, this helped you. And, that's why I'm here. That's what I'm here for, is to encourage you, to help you grow, to help you achieve your dreams. And, then I get a friend along the way, and you guys can help me too. All right. That's the way that life works. I look forward to seeing everybody June the 5th at 5:30 at the Hanover Air Park. We call it the Cave. And, you can reach out or put all this Facebook group, and it's all going to have the links on there and the directions. So look forward to seeing everybody. And thank you so much for paying attention. Have a great day. Bye.